All right. Well, welcome to the channel this fine Sunday morning. I hope everybody's well. My man Love Grooves Japan says salute from Japan, Martin. Thanks for everything you do. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, thanks. Shout out to Japan, man. Hope everything's going well out there, man. What time is it in Japan, man? It should be pretty late. Okay, make sure this thing ain't on mute, man. Sherman Nichols said the greatest boxing show on the internet. Thanks, man. We just talking. We do. It's a good. I'll give you this. It's a good, very good boxing conversation that we have every day, man. And today we're gonna talk about a long reigning conversation in boxing, which is anytime something happens funny, the PBC is about to shut down. So it appears as if there's some things going on with the PBC, with Fox and the contract that they got with Fox. What's going on, Dwayne Jones in the building? What's happening with you, sir? And it's up for what do you call this? Up for renewal, or it expires at the end of the year. So people are taking the fact that the Canelo Alvarez fight against Caleb Plant is going to be on Showtime, meaning that there could be some issue with whether or not Fox really wants to continue to invest. So we'll talk about that, man. But also we'll just talk about whatever stuff you guys want to talk about, man. Hit me up with questions. We'll do it for about an hour and a half, man. Have a good conversation. Hope you guys enjoying your Sundays. Leandre Robinson, what's good for nine? What we talking about, man? We talking about the fact, dude, that I'm really hoping, man, that these boxing networks, like the number of networks that are showing fights are decreasing. I'm not sure if that means, what's going on with, Fox would be the one I wouldn't want to get out of it, because I think the shows on Fox are good. I want DAZN and ESPN to pull out of it. But, there's definitely a chance, man, that the Fox might not re-sign the PBC, at the end of, when their contract's up, which I do believe they said is up at the end of the year. And then they got like a year to renew it or something like that. Fox can renew it for a year. But it already appears as if DAZN is lightening up what they're doing with boxing. I think that's a really good thing. But the loss of Fox would be a bad thing, because that's the only free network that where people can really watch it. That's on, man. What's going on, H-Town 713? How you feeling this fine Sunday morning, man? Hope I didn't get you guys out of church. This is the heathen show, man. The cats that ain't out there going to church. But yeah, man, or anything else you guys want to talk about, man. There's some stuff going on with Teofimo Lopez. I got a video coming up about Teofimo Lopez later today, man. Your boy Kambosos is talking about acting like he's Adrian Bronner and not really focused for the fights, man. Pretty much whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm good, man. Andrew Gray, what's going on, man? Yes, that everyone give a like, give a like if you're watching. Love the show for nine. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, man. But we'll wait till it's gonna as the thing picks up, man. What's going on, man? My man Harold, man, I can't pronounce that last name. He said my man Fanello, my man Fannon, elbow cough. What's good, man? I'm just here, man. I didn't have a show yesterday, man. I took the day off yesterday, just kind of relax and chill a little bit. But we back at it today, man, talking boxing. It's just not a lot of, it's not a whole lot going on in boxing these days, man. So it's kind of like you just gotta, you gotta take it as it comes, man. But I do believe that there's going to be a really nice flow of fights that are coming up over the next couple months, which will really, pick up enthusiasm for the sports, Cobra Head Sports Entertainment said, what's good, Noop? Yo, I'm chilling, man. Just enjoying just out here. I got up, I'm doing my show a little bit later on Sundays to give myself a chance to rest and recuperate early in the morning. But it's all good, man. I can't complain. I didn't get a chance. Did you guys see the Fox fights that took place last night on FS1? I didn't get a chance to see them, man. I think that they should. One of them was like a majority draw or something like that. But I didn't get a chance. I didn't really get a chance to see it, man. So anyway, man, I'm hoping that what they're saying isn't true and that Fox, will re-sign with the PBC. But you know what it is, man. Pretty much everything going on with the PBC, people have been predicting is going to be failing for the last 10 years or so. So, I would take it kind of with a grain. I just take it with a grain of salt and keep on pushing. But I do like that Canelo Alvarez, the fight's going to be on Showtime, because that's back where that's when Canelo fought, when there were some good shows, when shows were good on Showtime, or when he was fighting, really top-notch fights. That's where he was. So hopefully Canelo can have a, reestablish a relationship with Showtime and Showtime pay-per-view and get a series of really good fights, Leandre Robinson said, is the Porter Bud fight still happening in November, or you think it won't happen? I'm telling you, it's going to happen. I don't see it. This is not like the Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight where you got a guy that's going to be a flake. I don't think, neither one of those guys are flakes. I was saying that from the beginning that what's my man's name? Terrence Crawford is a guy that's going to show up and is going to have a fight. Sean Porter is somebody that's going to show up and have a fight, man. Neither one of those guys are going to sell out, man. They'll both be there, man. And, for the fight. And it's going to be a good fight, man. Terrence Crawford says that he thinks it's the toughest fight, that's the toughest fight of his career. I think Terrence Crawford knows it's the toughest fight of his career, man, and they think it's going to all be good. Terry Schmoot in the building. What's going on, man? He said, my man, salute OG King. Chilling, man. What's going on? Just a small crowd conversation today. I know I'm at an off time. Usually do it around 8 o'clock in the morning. So, just want to chop it up, man. But ask me any question about boxing, man. You guys can decide which way the conversation goes. But I'm telling you, I really do hope that the zone gets out of boxing. I really hope, but it doesn't appear like they're going to get out of boxing. I hear that they're actually trying to buy BT Sports, which means and I'm not sure what BT is is that like an actual channel in the UK? Or whether it's a program or what, but anyway, we'll see, man. Just not a lot really going on in boxing. So whatever you want to chop it up about, will be cool. Your boy Tyson Fury got into the United States though. So at least we know that he's not staying over there in the UK. He's actually in the United States. So we should be able to get a fight out of him, man. And it should be going down. So hopefully we get a little less speculation now that he's in the United States about whether or not, people are actually going to come out. Man, I wonder if my notifications went out, man. So really, it's an extra small crowd today, man. But anyway, ask me any question you want to ask about boxing. I'm here really just to chop it up with you. I got my man Terry Schmoot in the building. So anyway, man, yeah, let me know what you guys want to talk about, man. It's just not a lot going on, man, in boxing, man. But I will tell you this, man, I'm looking forward I think I'm probably the only person looking forward to the Anthony Joshua, Yordenis Ugas fight. Like the only person on the planet looking forward to that fight. I've heard absolutely no press for that, man, at all. Do I say Yordenis Ugas? I mean, Taylor Bell said BT Sports is a sports channel in the UK with pay-per-view capabilities. And so the zone is looking to buy. They said that they're looking to buy BT Sports. So BT Sports is the one that airs Tyson Fury's fights over there in the UK, right? Said Leon Robinson, did you watch the Jose Venezuela Barrio fight? Valenzuela dominated. Nah, I didn't get a chance to see it, man. I didn't, like I said yesterday, I kind of relaxed, man. I didn't really get into too much boxing yesterday. I kind of took the day off, man. Tried to relax. Champ Bailey Sports TV said Fury's back in the States. Good. Now I can book my flight again. Yeah. Be careful though. Be careful. Don't get too excited because it ain't like he might not pull it out. But I think it's safe to say that if a guy's got $80 million, if he's got $80 million that he risks losing, that he might actually show up and fight, man. Nobody wants to go completely broke after all the work that he did to get his bank account fat, Ariel L said, any update on the Loma Lopez rematch? Man, Teofimo Lopez doesn't want that fight, man. Teofimo Lopez doesn't want that fight. I think Teofimo Lopez, pretty much understands that he got out of there and he ain't trying to go back, man. That's a shame thing, man, about boxing right now, that where you don't have good rematches of good fights. If the fight is tight and an entertaining fight, why not have a rematch? But, people are all trying to play prima donna. Personally, I think Teofimo Lopez is headed for a hard time, man. He's starting to look a lot like Adrian Bronner to me in the way that he's behaving. I mean, there's a lot of similarities between him and Adrian Bronner, which goes to show you guys, I think everything is all about race. It's not. But I'm telling you, man, personality wise and the way that he's coming up as a fighter, he's got a lot in common with Adrian Bronner, man. And first of all, I don't think he's really working on becoming a better fighter. I think that I already think that he's making it, that he's already made it. And, and he's looking to cash in already, man. I just don't see the desire to be a better fighter. And I don't really see the desire to be, the best fighter, the best fighter that's out there by fighting the best competition. Because you get better by fighting better competition. It's not all, it's not all in the gym. But Teofimo Lopez doesn't seem that interested in it, man, because everybody that I hear him talk that people want him to fight, he acts like, he already acts like it's like it's not worth it, But I think that's just kind of stuff that's, spreading around boxing, man, and just happening to boxing in general. Not a lot of, there's a lot of Hollywood. There's a lot of Hollywood right now. And Adrian Bronner made a lot of money being Hollywood, but his career, he never panned out. And I don't think he was ever the fighter that he really could have been, if Adrian Bronner really would have focused on being in the gym, staying, keeping his weight down at lightweight. Like sometimes, man, like just thinking about how much better his career could have been if he would have stayed at lightweight and not eating his way out of 135. But it looks like Teofimo Lopez, that's the situation with Teofimo Lopez, because Teofimo Lopez looks really big when I see him, like looks very, very big. And I don't know how long he's going to be staying on in that weight, especially if he's out partying and drinking and stuff. That type of stuff will really hit, it hits you after a while, man. But I got, I just don't know, man. I don't know about Teofimo Lopez. I think he just, or any of those guys really, because all of them are pretty much acting funny about fighting each other with the grand exception of Devin Haney. That's where I am on it, man. But no, I didn't get to see the Jose Valenzuela Biero fight. I just wasn't in the mood for boxing last night. If it would, if they re-show it, or if I got an opportunity to go back and watch it, I'll go watch it. But it just wasn't, it just really didn't captivate me, man. That particular fight, I was more like watching the boxing news and doing stuff like that last night. But anyway, man. Like I said, it's a slow morning for boxing, man. Let me know you guys got some old school questions you guys want to talk about, man. We'll actually, or something like that. Let me know. It's just what it is this morning. It's just, boxing has really been kind of down this year, man. And not a lot popping off, man. It's like you got to continually try to generate interest in the sport, man, when the sport isn't really trying to have people, generate interest in them. Powerhouse Watson said, Bud versus Porter is fire. Yeah, that's the best. Man, I'm so happy that fight was made, man. I don't know what to do. If it wasn't for that fight, I guess over the next couple months, there's good fights. Anthony Joshua versus Usyk is a good fight that's supposed to be that is going to take place. Andrew Gray said, what matters more, technique or toughness? I think they're both equal. I think if you're not a tough fighter or a tough-minded person, that you're not going to make it far in boxing, because you're going to get hit if you're not tough. But if you don't have the technique, you're not going to be able to stop people from hitting you, and you're not going to be able to, you're not going to come up, man. That's what I think. You know what I mean? If you're not really, if you do need both, man, you need both. I don't think that's an either or. I don't think that's an either or situation, especially with all the talents that you got there, man. Powerhouse Watson said, salute and good morning, big homie. Yeah, man, salute and good morning to you, man. Hope all is well with you. Foreman versus Prime. Foreman versus Tyson, prime for prime. Oh, I'll take George Foreman. I think I'll take George Foreman over Mike Tyson, man. In their prime, George Foreman's a wrecking ball, and I think he's just a better all fighter. Mike Tyson kind of reminds me of Joe Frazier. So just pretty much just off the Joe Frazier matchup, I'll give him the edge over the Joe Frazier matchup. That's where, kind of where I am on that, man. But, it is what it is, man. I would take, if you ask me who I would take, George Foreman or Tyson and these guys over the fighters that are fighting now, I'll take both of them. Because I think it was a really kind of a golden era in the heavyweight division when George Foreman and those guys were fighting. Same thing for the 70s. Jose Soto said, why you hate on Canelo? Jealous? Man, let me tell you something. If I was jealous of Canelo Alvarez, I would be hating on a lot more people than Canelo Alvarez. There's a whole lot of people that got more money than me, man. And I would be running around hating on damn near every champion in boxing. What is there for me to be jealous of with Canelo Alvarez? Seriously, I'm not a boxer, so I'm not jealous of him getting championships. I mean, if it's his money, I'll be jealous. That means I'm jealous of everybody, and I'd be making videos hating on Errol Spence. I'd be hating on Terrence Crawford. Some people do say I hate on Terrence Crawford. I'd be hating on everybody. I'd be hating on Jamal Charlo, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. No, man. The problem with Canelo Alvarez, man, is Canelo Alvarez on steroids. And that's just something you guys got to fess up to, man, and live with, man. It's not I don't make up what Canelo Alvarez does. Okay? I don't make it up, man. It's not on me. That shit is on Canelo Alvarez. And Canelo Alvarez just is somebody that tested positive for performance enhancing drugs, and he hasn't fought anybody. If he changes it, I won't say what I got to say about him. But what am I supposed to like? You know? I mean, Jose Soto, I don't mind talking to you today because it's a small crowd. What's the clown about? It's not me, dude. I didn't make that dude test positive for performance enhancing drugs. And I'm serious. I'm talking to you like man to man. I'm not even making fun of you. I'm not insulted that you say it, but very, very seriously, man, what am I supposed to do when that man tests positive for performance enhancing drugs? It's not me. H-Town in the building, man. Thank you for the support, man. Said supporting the grind. Bomb squad already. Yes, sir. Not too far out of there, man. Not too far from that. Yes, sir. I'm looking forward to that. But for real, why don't you hold Canelo Alvarez accountable? That's my question for you. What do you want me to do? You want me to cheer for Canelo Alvarez and cheer for Oscar Valdez? If you want me to do that, give me a reason to do it, okay? Give me a reason to do it. Canelo Alvarez, I wouldn't even be that hard on him if he would fight somebody legitimately, if he didn't play if he wasn't playing reindeer games. But that's not on me, man. That's on Canelo Alvarez. So I'm sorry, man. I'm not hating on Canelo Alvarez. And there's very few. The only fighter that I think I could get, somebody could be like, oh, man, you really hating on him, is Tyson Fury. That's the only guy where I think there's a legitimate argument that somebody could be like, oh, Fannon, you're just hating on him. Yeah, I am hating on him because the guy is a flat-out cheater. He's a flat-out cheater. The dude's a liar. Yeah, I'm hating on that. 100 miles an hour, I'm hating on that. But Canelo Alvarez, dude, no. Matter of fact, I think I give Canelo Alvarez too much credit, period. I'm not even on Canelo Alvarez like that. Taylor Bell in that super chat, man. Thank you so much for the support, man. Appreciate you, man. I mean, that's on Canelo, man. That's on Canelo. Canelo did it, not me. Powerhouse Watson said, now Valdez getting the special treatment too. Exactly. Look, man, if they would have suspended him, there'd be no hatred. Seriously. If they wouldn't have lowered, and I might even have been okay with it. And thanks, Taylor. I really do appreciate that, man. That counts a lot. Thank you. Even if they would have just, not lowered the computerol levels, raised the computerol levels so that he could do it more easily, right? Maybe I wouldn't be so hot at him, but sorry, man. It is what it is, man. Canelo Alvarez got popped. He got caught cheating. That's what it is. It's not on me. That's on Canelo Alvarez. And if you think I'm a clown for that, hey, man, squeak, squeak. You know what I mean? What can I do? It is what it is, man. Elasanti said, Pednello is a hype job and a cheat. Yeah, he's a cheat. I don't think he's a hype job, though. Canelo Alvarez is a very, very solid fighter. He's a good fighter. I don't think he's the type of fighter that people are chalking him up to be. You know what I mean? It's not a scenario where he's fighting, he's fighting and he's leaps and bounds better than everybody in boxing. I don't believe that, or at least not off the record of the guys that he's been fighting, man. You know what I mean? Because the guys that he's been fighting have just not been that good lately. So I don't know what he's, this idea that he's this leaps and bounds better than everybody else. I don't believe that, man. Viva 2 Vita in the building says, salute, Martin. You're the best in the business. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, man. Sorry for throwing you guys off with the time today. I had to sleep. I've been having a hard time getting out of bed the last couple of days, man. And I was just like, I'll do it at like 10 o'clock. I'll do it like at 10 o'clock today. But thank you guys so much for shorting me, man. Uncle Ruckus said black fighters don't get this special treatment from what I see. No, nobody does. I've never seen anybody get treated better than Canelo Alvarez in box. As far as I know in boxing, I don't know of anybody to get more special treatment than Canelo though. Honestly, man, I've never seen it. I don't think you can name a boxer that got more favorable treatment than Canelo. Not Oscar De La Hoya, not Floyd Mayweather Jr., definitely not Mike Tyson, not Muhammad Ali. I've never seen anybody be treated like Canelo Alvarez has been treated, specifically by the WBC, because it's not like he was treated like that, by the IBF. And I don't think he gets special treatment I don't think he gets special treatment from the WBA, but the love affair that he has, that the WBC has with him, that I've never seen anything like that, man. And the way that the WBC has been behaving with Oscar Valdez, I've never seen anything like that, man. It's so out of whack, man, that, it's just, you can't respect it. And they're stealing from him. You know what I mean? Because you remember when Canelo Alvarez refused to touch the WBC belt when Floyd Mayweather Jr. tried to have him touch it? After that happened, and Canelo Alvarez refused to fight for the WBC belt against Gennady Golovkin the first time. It's like they folded. You know what I'm saying? They completely folded. Jose Soto said, "You're still sleeping on Canelo, homie." I'm not. He's a very good fighter, man. I'm not sleeping on Canelo. Well, how can I sleep on Canelo, man? What's going on to my man Antonio Sanchez? He says, "Shout out to you, Fannon, from the 518. Great show as always." Thanks, man. I appreciate you, man. And thanks for the support, man. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Look, man, he said Barry Dow said the lifetime belt. Yeah. I've never seen anybody treated. I've never seen more favoritism for a fighter than the WBC gives Canelo Alvarez. It's so over the top. It's so over the top. It's appalling, man. You know what I mean? It's. I don't know if that's too easy. Let that run by the cartel. I don't know, man. There's nothing that I've seen, nothing that I've seen to make me sure that I know that for sure. But I will tell you, dude, that's the big problem with Canelo. They're doing it. I don't even seem like Canelo's trying to do it. But I love when the IBF stripped him. Hey, man, that's what he deserved to get stripped when the IBF stripped him. Leandre Robinson said, "We're not judging Canelo off skill. We judge off PEDs." Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he can fight. Oh, say Powerhouse Watson said the cartel don't care about no boxing. Gambling, they may care about a little gambling. But they ain't making any money off gambling. They make it like they're making off of drugs. I personally just think that they don't want to go out of business. That's what I think. I think that they don't want to go out of business, that they want to slide. And that's their big money guy. Canelo Alvarez is easily he's the biggest payday that there is in boxing, and the WBC wants a part of that payday, so they're going to do anything to keep Canelo happy and Canelo's whole crew. They're trying to build Oscar Valdez. Oscar Valdez has got a good following I guess he's got a good following in Arizona. They had something sold out and they want to support that, man. It's just, what it is, man. It's kind of what's going on. Fahim's the tour in the building. What's going on, man, on this early Sunday morning, on this actually a little bit late Sunday morning. Uncle Ruckus says, at the end of the day, this is no different from the search for the great white hope. Mexican, Asian, white, it's anything but black. I've never seen black. I've never seen I've never seen an Asian get the favoritism that Canelo Alvarez has got. I've never seen a Mexican get the favoritism that he gets, man. Ever. Out of the WBC. But he didn't get it in. I didn't think he got that much favoritism when it came to Gennady Golovkin. But I think they're just protecting their cash cow. You know what I mean? KP said, who would think if they want a payday, they would have supported Deontay Wilder. Nah, man, they're not supporting. They have been very unsupportive of Deontay Wilder. When they ripped off Deontay Wilder for that money, with that money for Alexander Povetkin, when they ripped him off for that money, man, that was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous, man. Power said the cartel don't care who you is, what gang you in. Yeah, I wouldn't know, man. I got no specialty information on drug cartels in Mexico for sure. Who you? Oh yeah, I got that, man. He said, wait, Chavez Jr. got special treatment too. I didn't pay attention. He's a bum. Anything that he gets is, yeah, he got that, but he was with Matchroom at the time. He was with Matchroom when they let him, and then he got suspended for that though. Initially, they forum hopped. Where they like Nevada suspended him, and then he went to Arizona. It's the same state, or was that Florida? What state was it that? No, that was Arizona. That's Arizona that did both of those, huh? Arizona, but one of them was on was on Indian land, I do believe. Anthony McDuffel said they don't want black fighters to win, not just in boxing. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that I do believe there's a bias against black fighters. Clearly there's a bias against black fighters. And this because they all sit and say, well, you guys don't dominate anymore. That's why you're so mad. And honestly, man, I don't see that there's always, how many black champions are there? Like 10, 11, 13 of them at all the time, man. So the numbers don't change much. It's just who they kind of want to push, and they believe that Mexicans are going to be more likely to buy the fights, I think, you know? They care or they would be executing people, or said they care or they wouldn't be executing people. Really, dude? Yeah, man, I like to stay out of that. Pozo said Wilder's the most disrespected heavyweight champ, gave fighters multiple opportunities to feed their families. Yep, without a doubt, man. Definitely the most disrespected. That and I don't know, second most disrespected behind Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz, I think, is probably the most disrespected. He's the guy that is, he's the guy that those guys won't even fight, man. And the media acts like he doesn't exist, and they don't put any pressure on anybody to fight. Dillian White is the most catered to, though. I don't know who gets more special treatment, Canelo or Damn. What about Dillian White? No, he has to sue the WBC. That proves the point, man. The WBC ain't treating Dillian White special. Not too special. They give him like the secondary belts and hope he shuts up. You know what I mean? Flico said, do you consider Tio undisputed even though the franchise championship can't be won or lost? No, I do not. Because he's disputed. Devin Haney has a claim at that title as the WBC champion. Every one of those guys have a claim at being the WBC champion. You know what I mean? Because they got 3 WBC champions in the same weight class. So absolutely, I don't consider and he doesn't get treated as undisputed. You don't hear people talking about, like, we know who the undisputed champion is. There's only one undisputed champion in boxing. It's Josh Taylor. He's the only one. Nobody's treated Teofimo Lopez like Teofimo Lopez is an undisputed champion. Everybody knows all that nonsense going on down there at 135 pounds that they did to make Canelo Alvarez happy. Like, to make Canelo Alvarez, all that trouble caused because they wanted to make Canelo Alvarez happy. We're going to make him the franchise champion so he never has to fight anybody he doesn't want. Like, he's just terrible, man. Bearcat Hampton in the building. What's good, man? And I like that we can disagree sometimes, man, and you still come by the channel, man. See, before their fight, they stripped Sergio and gave the belt to Chavez Jr. Jr. is Suleiman's godson. That's why Sergio was so mad. Sergio Martin, they didn't give him the belt. He had to beat him for it. He never got that belt off of Sergio Martinez. I don't think he ever. You talking about was Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. lost to Sergio Martinez. I don't recall that being how that happened. But I'll tell you what, man, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. got a just the fact that anybody even thinks that dude is a decent boxer, man, is favoritism towards Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., man. That dude sucks. Straight up, man. There ain't no way about that, man. But Pozo said Wilder's most disrespected heavyweight champ, gave fighters multiple opportunities to feed their family. Yeah, That him and Luis Ortiz. Luis Ortiz they need tournaments just for guys like that, man. Renee Parchment in the building said, what's good, Fannon? I'm chilling, man. You know what I mean? Art Man Boxing said, can I get a wrench? Yeah, man. Absolutely, you can get a wrench, man. Let me give you a wrench, Art Man Boxing. I know you well enough. And you are moderated, man. Don't abuse the power, man, but you moderated, dude. Absolutely, man. Ella Santos say greatness don't need to be manipulated. Canelo is not a great. No, I don't think he's a great fighter. I don't think he's a great fighter. I think he's a very good one. I think he's a very, very good fighter. I don't think he's a great fighter. I don't think he's a great fighter. But he's one of the best that there are right now. But I think he could prove that he's great. If he beat Canelo, if he beat Jamal Charlo, beat Demetrius Andrade, I don't think that there would be any problem with him saying that he's great. But he just hasn't been fighting anybody as of late. But I'm telling you, though, this Caleb Plant fight is a good fight, man. Without a doubt. I think it's a very, very good fight. Dante said they stripped Martinez before the fight and gave the belt to Chavez. Martinez had to go to court to get the Chavez Jr. fight. Okay, yeah, but that's back in the day, man. Maybe I didn't. Hey, Art, man, don't do that too much, man. I don't like cats typically don't do that. If you put one in there, that's cool. Don't spam the channel, man. All right, Art, man, don't spam the channel. You ask people to subscribe to your channel once, man. Just do that once, and that's it. I don't have a problem pubbing your channel or telling people to subscribe. Yeah, but just do it like one time, man. I appreciate you, man. And no worries, Art Man Boxing. No hard feelings or whatever. Ain't no problems. He said, "Cry, it's all good, man. No worries, man. Ain't no worries at all, man. We all trying to grow." Donato Lopez said, "I'm a Canelo fan, but I don't understand people saying he's just going to walk through Plant." That is a problem in boxing, where everybody thinks like there's a lot of fights that get crapped on because of that. Because people say, "Oh, I think this guy's going to walk through that guy." Canelo's going to walk through everybody in boxing, according to certain people, with the exception of David Benavidez, who he'll never fight. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a couple people that Canelo Alvarez will not walk through, man. Canelo ain't walking through Jamal Charlo. I don't care what people are saying. He's not walking through Jamal Charlo. He's not walking through Demetrius Andrade. He's not these guys that he's been walking through. The people that he's been walking through they're just not very good fighters. And that's why he's walking through them. You know, Canelo is not, it's like Floyd Mayweather Jr. Floyd Mayweather Jr. just wasn't walking through people. You know, he was a lot better fighter than a lot of guys, but he wasn't just walking through them. The best fighter in boxing is still going to be able to find competition if he fights the right guy. And that's been the history of the sport up until recently, because now fans pretty much just act like when they get their favorite fighter, that their favorite fighter is automatically just too good for everybody, which is just some BS, man. You know what I mean? Renee Parchment said, Mayweather is the only great boxer of this era. Spence is the closest to that, but not quite there yet. No, man, Andre Ward. Andre Ward is a great fighter, but I think it's a great fighter compared to the people that you're fighting with. You know what I mean? Manny Pacquiao's a great fighter. I think Manny Pacquiao's a great fighter. I think Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a great fighter, and Andre Ward's a great fighter. This is not this generation, but Roy Jones Jr. was a great fighter. James Toney was a great fighter. Shoot, I think Vladimir and Vitaly Klitschko were great fighters. You know, there's a lot of fighters that are really very, very solid fighters. But, the problem is that people just don't respect them, because of the promotion that goes on with other guys, man. There's a lot of very, very solid fighters. There's a chance that Gervonta Davis can become a great fighter. He's an excellent, excellent fighter, man. If Gary Russell Jr. could get the fights, Gary Russell Jr. could prove that he's a great fighter. Who knows, Monster Inoue down there in that little itty bitty teeny weeny weight class could be considered a great fighter. I think Guillermo Rigondeaux at his prime was a great fighter. They just didn't give Guillermo Rigondeaux enough fights, to prove it. The only one that he really got access to was Nonito Donaire, and he handled his business in that one. That could be a great fighter. I think there's a lot of guys, man. Oh yeah, he did. Man, that was one of my favorite fighters, dude. That's one of my favorite fights, man. He walked through, he mopped Diego Corrales, dog. He walked through him. He walked through Arturo Gatti. He walked through Arturo Gatti. He walked through Diego Corrales. He walked through Ricky Hatton. He walked through Ricky Hatton. He was gonna walk through Zab Judah, but Zab Judah got a little tricky. Zab Judah, people act like people say that Zab Judah fight was closer than it was. Trust me, if it was not for the fact that Zab Judah's dad jumped into the ring, Zab Judah was going to get knocked out in that fight, man. Because Floyd Mayweather Jr. was playing no jokes. He played no jokes with Zab Judah. And that's a credit to Floyd Mayweather Jr. that he fought Zab Judah. Before Floyd went Hollywood. Floyd went Hollywood after Oscar De La Hoya. But good for him. You know what I mean? Good for him. Made all his money because he deserved it. Right now, fighters are going Hollywood walking in the door, though, man. You know what I mean? You got guys just walking in the door thinking that they're Floyd Mayweather. Like Teofimo. You know what I mean? Teofimo playing Floyd right now. Fight Lomachenko. I almost want to start, that's a fight that really needs to take place, man. And it's so easy to make. And the fact that he says he doesn't want that, man, really does irk me. You know? Pozo said, why can't Demetrius Andre get a high-profile fight? He's an Olympic champ. He's an Olympian champ. He's not an Olympic champ. Demetrius Andrade is not an Olympic champ. However, he can't get one because he's on DAZN. They ain't trying to give him nobody over there at DAZN. He signed with DAZN. They had Canelo Alvarez. They had Gennady Golovkin. He had the WBO, and Canelo Alvarez had all the other 3 belts, and DAZN didn't want that fight. I can't even put that on Canelo because Eddie Hearn said he didn't want the fight. So, you know, I think Demetrius Andrade is a case of being a little too good, a little too awkward, and not a name that's resonating with the fans. But hey, if he wouldn't, sometimes, there's long-lasting ramifications of decisions you make, and he decided that he wasn't going to fight. He decided he wasn't going to fight and pulled out of that Jermell Charlo fight. He had an opportunity to really be in a nice groove if he would have taken that and beaten Jermell Charlo. But, he made the decision not to fight Jermell Charlo, went with Jay-Z on that over to the Rock Nation. And, the rest is history. But hopefully, he'll sign with the PBC next. I think hopefully he will. But he's a different type of guy. I like him a lot, though. And again, he's somebody that they don't want. What did Canelo Alvarez say about him? That he's not interesting. Now, I don't want to fight him. He's not interesting. Come on, man. Bearcat Hampton said it's because Plant has no power and didn't look impressive against Uzcategui. He looked extremely impressive against Uzcategui. You mean the Uzcategui that he beat like that? You kidding me? Anyway, Canelo wanted him for a reason. He handpicks guys that he know he can beat. Canelo Plant is food, man. Canelo, I don't think Plant is food. I don't think he's food, man. Caleb Plant can fight, man. The only thing that Caleb Plant has to do is he's got to be able to get Canelo Alvarez's respect. If he can get his respect, that's going to be a good fight, man. Because Canelo Alvarez is not just going to walk down Caleb Plant. And if Caleb Plant but Caleb Plant's going to have to go there and he's going to have to put something on Canelo. Just like Andre Ward said, it has to be a situation where he rattles Canelo Alvarez's cage and gives Canelo Alvarez something to think about by being aggressive with Canelo Alvarez. I think if he's aggressive with Canelo, then I think he's got a chance to win, man. And I'm telling you, man, people be surprised when fighters lose, dude. Don't any fight for me. He said it's just the entrepreneur in me. Yeah, ain't no worries, man. Ain't no worries. I'm not tripping. You know what I'm saying? You're not the first person. You're not the first person to do it. And I typically, it's all good. Yeah, man. But yeah, that's the problem with Demetrius Andrade. Man, Demetrius Andrade might beat Canelo Alvarez. Nobody thinks these guys can lose until they lose. You know what I mean? Nobody thinks Gennady Golovkin was an undefeatable fighter. Listen to how they treated Gennady Golovkin. Everybody's ducking Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin can never lose. Gennady Golovkin's one of the greatest middleweight champs of all time. He don't look that great now. And a lot of people thought he lost to Deverenchenko. You know what I mean? He had a hard fight with Daniel Jacobs, and Daniel Jacobs is not, Daniel Jacobs, I don't think Daniel Jacobs is as good as Caleb Plant, personally. And Daniel Jacobs gave Canelo Alvarez a good fight. So I just don't get why they would think, I don't get why people would think that he's going to walk through him, man. And I don't know why you say he doesn't have any power, because he was dropping Uzcategui, and Uzcategui ain't known to just be dropping. 10 heavyweight title defenses is being great. Absolutely. Deontay Wilder's a great fighter. Man, and I don't understand. That's just, Deontay Wilder is just hypocrisy. It's just boxing's hypocrisy right there in your face. If Deontay Wilder was the type of guy that would just win with boxing skills, they would complain that he doesn't get knockouts. He wins by getting a bunch of knockouts, and they complain that he doesn't have any skill. Like if you compare how Deontay Wilder is treated and Floyd Mayweather Jr. is treated, it just shows you. If you can't be happy with Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s career and give him due respect, then you know what's up. Because you still got people saying that Manny Pacquiao was better than Floyd. And I know Fahim agrees, don't you? Powerhouse Watson said, I thought he lost to Deverenchenko. Yeah, I mean, it was a close fight. I thought it was a close fight. But, it could have went either way. But you know how they got, Gennady Golovkin's got that judge appeal. You know what I mean? Mr. Pablo Sled, what's going on, man? I don't think I've seen your name before. If I did, forgive me. Said, to beat Canelo, you need discipline all 12 rounds. Yeah, and you need to be on juice and not get tired. That would help too. You know what I mean? Make sure you're on juice and you do not fatigue. If you fatigue, you're going to have a hard time with Canelo, because Canelo's not fatiguing. Just like Oscar Valdez. If Conceição was on the juice, he would have beat him. And he would have beat Estrada. Not Estrada. What's the guy's name? Valdez. You know what I mean? Larry Sellers man, what's going on, Larry? How you feeling, man? He said there was a lot of HBO hype behind GGG. He acknowledged that. Himself. Yeah, they were overboard, man. Much love in that super chat to my man D. Let me go down here and slide. Thank you so much for supporting the channel in the super chat, man. Devin Dockery said, wait, you think Caleb Plant is better than Daniel Jacobs? How? Much love in that super chat. I think he's got better footwork. I think he's got better hand speed. I think he's got better defense. I think he's got a better chin. That's what I think. But, it could be what and what. I'm not that impressed by Daniel Jacobs, man. Daniel Jacobs, what's the dude's name that knocked out Daniel Jacobs? Pirov. He got knocked out by Pirov. I do think he was winning that fight with Gennady Golovkin, but he wound up getting dropped by Gennady Golovkin. He's a good fighter, man, but I think Caleb Plant's bigger than him, number one. He's fat. I think he's got faster hands. I think he's just got a more versatile game. But that's yet to be proved, because he's got to fight top-notch competition. But I think Caleb Plant's a very good fighter, man. I think don't lunch on Caleb Plant, man. He's a really good dude, man. He's a really good fighter, from what I can see. The thing with Caleb Plant, though, is can he fight on the inside? Right. And I have seen him in his last couple fights fight on the inside. And I was really impressed by Uzcategui, because Uzcategui's a good fighter, man. He's a really good fighter, man. Shade Filcher said there's no excuse for Charlo versus Andre being made. You mean not being made? Yeah, he's full of it on that one. I ain't gonna lie. Jamal Charlo's full of it on Demetrius Andrade. There's no reason for him not to fight him. And I'm 100% behind you. I'm a Jamal Charlo fan, but I'll tell you, there ain't no reason in the world for that fight not to be made. And the fact that they're not making it is a shame. It's another example of, really good fights that go nowhere because both guys are looking for Canelo Alvarez. Everybody's staring at Canelo Alvarez and they don't want to fight each other. I think they need to take the route that Deontay Wilder took when he couldn't get the Anthony Joshua fight. He went out there and made his own fights. And you can say what you want, dude. He's 5 fights in. You know what I mean? Like, Deontay Wilder is on his 5th huge fight. Fifth very big fight. He had Luis Ortiz was his first big fight. Then Tyson Fury, then Luis Ortiz, then Tyson Fury, and now Tyson Fury again. 5 fights that are pay-per-view fights, that are big money fights for Deontay Wilder that he would have never gotten. He would have never gotten if he just sat around, protecting himself and not trying to fight while he's looking and waiting around for Anthony Joshua to fight him. So I think that, that these guys should take that route. Some of them are going to lose. You know what I mean? But if they sitting around, waiting for the Canelo Alvarez sweepstakes, man, and that's just some nonsense, and they say it, that that's who they're looking to get. Oh, I want the Canelo Alvarez fight. If I do this, I get the Canelo Alvarez fight. Man, you might as well just make some good fights, man, because Jamal, you're not getting it. Jamal Charlo ain't getting that fight. If he gets that fight, if he gets that fight, I'll be absolutely shocked that he gets that fight. Absolutely shocked. Canelo Alvarez will retire before he fights Jamal Charlo. And if Jamal Charlo moves up to 168, it's not going to make a difference because he's just not going to do it. David Benavidez, I think David Benavidez is taking the right approach by continuing to push for Jamal Charlo. When Jamal Charlo moves up, because I think David Benavidez knows he's not getting that Canelo Alvarez fight. Those guys, and there's enough of those guys where they can make good fights amongst themselves. Jamal Charlo versus Demetrius Andrade, Demetrius Andrade versus David Benavidez, all those guys can make good fights with one another. They ain't got to sit around and wait on Canelo Alvarez to see, who's going to get the chance to beat to fight Canelo Alvarez. Pound for Pound King said, go watch Canelo GGG reviews. That's done frame by frame, landed punch by punch. First fight, GGG outlanded him by 99 punches. I ain't a big fan of that, man. I thought he won the fight. I'm not gonna go back and rewatch. I haven't gone back and rewatched it, but I thought he won the fight, man. I thought he won the fight pretty fairly, man. I thought he did, but he got a draw and everybody was so hot. That was sad. Now, you knew he wasn't getting favoritism then. Canelo Alvarez against Gennady Golovkin got treated like a regular human being. They were dogging him. They dogged him for a little while, except for by the WBC. That's it. You know what I mean? Daniel Jacobs said Daniel Jacobs is technically sound, but it feels like he's missing something. Yeah, he's technically sound. He's not. I don't think there's anything that really outstanding or special about Daniel Jacobs. I think that he's a good fighter that will lose to. I think he'll lose to pretty much all those top guys. Demetrius Andrade. I think Demetrius Andrade beats him. I think Jamal Charlo beats him. Shoot, I think Jamal Charlo might be able to beat him. But he's he's just a solid fighter. He's just a solid fighter that does everything well, but nothing special. And I think Caleb Plant's a better athlete than him. Jiminy Cricket said, also when Bud ain't have a belt at 147 and Porter and Spence and them, nobody wanted to give him a shot. They said, get a belt. He got one and they disappeared and Bud 2-0 versus a PBC. All right. Okay. The fight's going to get made now. So all of that is whatever. It's all whatever now because the fight's going to get made, so it is what it is. He's fighting. We'll see what happens when he gets in the ring with Sean Porter and whether he shows improve, which I think he will, man. I think Terrence Crawford is going to show improve against him. You know what I mean? We got a battle going on between Fahim Sator and Jiminy Crickets, man. Kyle Brown said Usyk washes Joshua inside of 8. No way. No way. Man, Usyk may win the fight. He ain't washing him, though. I find it mighty amazing how nobody cares about that fight, though. Don't you? Don't you see me kind of interesting that nobody cares about Anthony Joshua versus Usyk? And like nobody's talking about the fight in the United States when this guy was one of the most talked about fighters in the world over the last couple years. It's just amazing how all that propaganda just went down the tube for Anthony Joshua, at least as it goes in the United States. Because, man, it sparks no interest whatsoever. And it's a good fight, man. It should be a highly talked about fight. You got a former undisputed fighter, undisputed cruiserweight champ in Alexander Usyk. You got, a 3-belt holder in Anthony Joshua, but It just doesn't seem like there's any oomph for that fight. You know what I mean? Ron Miller said, I think Canelo might retire soon. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. But you never know. You never know how it is with boxers. You know, I would have thought that Manny Pacquiao would have been retired. But Manny Pacquiao is just in love with the game. Canelo Alvarez might be in love with the game and stick through thick and thin. Eventually, I hope that's the case with him, though, because that way we can see him in some good fights. He used to be in really good fights, man. Fahim Sator, you and Fannon going to make another bet? Oh, man, come on. Why are you instigating stuff? I'm going to tell you right now, you probably shouldn't bet me. I ain't betting nothing unless I know I'm going to win. I mean, I'll walk away from a bet in a heartbeat if I'm not sure about it. Which is why I didn't take no bets on whether or not Tyson Fury is going to pull out of the fight. But with $80 million stuck on his head, I don't think we got to worry about that. You know what I mean? Pound for Pound King said Floyd promoted the hell out of the no loss, no zero. Now everybody is scared to take a loss. Yeah, but I don't know why Manny Pacquiao's doing just fine with losses. You know what I mean? He's doing just fine with losses. Deontay Wilder got a loss. He's about to make a bunch of money. That's very, very unfortunate, man, that Floyd Mayweather has that 50-0, which is really, and it's funny because the thing with the 50-0 was just to beat Rocky Marciano. You know what I mean? It was like he was beating Rocky Marciano's record. But nobody considered Rocky Marciano the greatest fighter of all time because he was 49-0. You know what I mean? Or Julio Cesar Chavez. Julio Cesar Chavez, I think, went 60-something-0. And I'm pretty sure like Sugar Ray Robinson was in the 80s or 90s. He may have been 100-0 for all I know, man. I keep forgetting what his total was. But, you know, people are more interested. I think the promoters are always trying to find a way, you know, to make a clickbait fight. I think that all that record stuff is just clickbait. It's just a way to say, oh, he's an undefeated fighter. That means he's better than this guy. Canelo Alvarez lost. And these people are acting like they could not care less about Canelo Alvarez losing, you know? So why not? Why not push forward? You know, Jermell Charlo lost to Tony Harrison. In two fights later, he's right back in it. You know what I mean? Right back in it. Had a chance to be, you know, if he would have been able to get past Castano, would have got, you know, been on the pound for pound best list, all of that stuff, man. And he would have done it with a loss. I don't get it. You know what I mean? He said 40 straight, one loss, then 85 wins. Okay, that's Sugar Ray Leonard. That's Sugar Ray Robinson. Yeah. Kyle Brown said, does Josh Taylor recent dad bod workouts look like it's going to take a minute for him to get back in state? Not over there in UK. Not over there in UK. It ain't going to take him no time at all. No time at all. Billy Joe Saunders got a dad bod every time. Made weight. Because they got diuretics. That's what diuretics are for. Don't worry about it. Josh Taylor's going to be cut. He always blows up in weight. Because he should be fighting 147. You know? That's what, and he drains down to 140. He's a bigger guy. But no, man, I don't think that means anything, man. He'll get that weight off. He'll get the weight off. What happens when he gets that weight off, when he gets to 147, is something else entirely different. You know? King Fannon was my man, King Third Eye Supreme. Said, hey, Fannon, why Canelo mad because Ward help out Plant? I don't know, man. He sounded like he's more irritated at the question. But, you know, he's got a chip on his shoulder, man. If he said, yeah, he can get in there too, that's a little bit disrespectful. But maybe he feels like, you know, why you in there trying to get me beat? What you got to do with this? But I like Andre Ward's take on it. Andre Ward's like, man, I ain't got no loyalty to Canelo Alvarez. You know, and that's my guy. So I'm gonna give him pointers. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's people in there. Well, Canelo Alvarez, they already think Canelo Alvarez know everything. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm sure there are people that were out there giving Canelo Alvarez pointers about, you know, what to do with Floyd Mayweather Jr. when they thought their young up and coming star had a chance to do something, you know? It is what it is, man. It's all that stuff is kind of crazy to me, man. King Third said, hey, for now, why couldn't Canelo call out Ward 5 or 6 years ago, though? Because he was going to lose. Because they were in different weight classes, and he was going to lose. Canelo Alvarez don't want no parts of Andre Ward. Canelo Alvarez can't beat Andre Ward. Screw all, because he's not as good number one, he's not as good a fighter as Andre Ward. And I did hear some talks about him wanting to fight him after he went retired and he got sufficiently juiced. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Oscar. Yeah, B-Dog said Oscar gave Canelo the blueprint to beat Ford. Yeah, Floyd. Yeah, all of that nonsense that was going on. Oscar De La Hoya always did that. Had the blueprint to beat Floyd. It's the jab. It's the jab. Man, Stallion Triple X, what's going on, man? Which I hope you're doing well. Shade Fletcher said he may not beat Canelo, but Beterbiev is a monster. Even without throwing a punch, the guy looks scary. Yeah, I think, if Canelo ain't sitting up there on 50, man, the tough thing is Canelo and that juice. If Canelo, it's the juice on Canelo. Because he's just coming in he's coming in there so over the top strong, dude. That he just looks like he's juicing, and he is juicing. So, Canelo really, it's whatever with Canelo, really. I mean, but he's a good fighter, Floyd's dad trained Oscar and Hatton. Yeah, they used to have a little bit of a beef. But that was, I think, but he got out of his corner as soon as Floyd Mayweather Jr. started moving up, man. But, the big Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s dad trained Floyd Mayweather Jr. towards the end of his career. And I thought that was one of the more beautiful things that took place, man, was that those guys got together towards the end of their career. That's what I thought anyway, man. Hara said Chavez Jr. went undefeated against fighters in Mexico. Once he came to America and fought more skilled fighters, we seen what happened. Yeah, but I mean, he's a good fighter though. He's always been a good fighter. I mean, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. was a top-notch fighter. Whether he's, beating up guys in Mexico or not, he was a very, very, very solid fighter. A Titan, unlike his son, who was complete trash. His son is complete trash. But Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. was a very, very solid fighter, fundamentally sound fighter. And, he got that gift, though. Maybe he was as favored as Canelo, because he got that ridiculous gift against Pernell Whitaker, man. Pound for Pound King said, yeah, that they fixed their beef at the end was really good and finished it. Yeah, man, that was really nice, man. Because they had a legitimate, them dudes was going at each other for a minute. They were really going at each other for a minute. I was like, man, what is this about? But one thing I will tell you, man, I think Floyd Mayweather Jr., everything that's said about Floyd Mayweather Jr., or issues that I have with Floyd Mayweather Jr., I think Floyd Mayweather Jr. is an honest guy. You may not like what he has to say. But I think he really does speak from the heart and tells the truth about what he thinks, and isn't somebody that's just out there lying. You know what I mean? I don't think he was a steroid abuser. I hear all that talk about the IV and getting shots in his hand or whatever. But man, really, just if that's the best you can do on that dude's career, whatever. Oh, I'll tell you why I want him out. Fannon, why you want PBC out of boxing? So you want the PBC monopolizing boxing? As a fight fan, competition is good for sport and boxing. Really? So how good has boxing been? Silk Shocker. How good is boxing right now with all these networks in it? And DAZN, I'm not saying DAZN is not the PBC. That's a false comparison. Matchroom, you can compare Matchroom to the PBC. You compare DAZN to ESPN, DAZN to Fox, and DAZN to Showtime. And the reason I want them out is because there's too many networks. And all the good fighters are split between networks, and we're not getting good fights. I don't care who it is. If DAZN had all the fighters and were making great fights, I would not care. But DAZN doesn't make good fights. From what I can see, DAZN stands in the way of good fights. From what I can see. I think DAZN had, at least when we were looking for the Deontay Wilder fight versus Anthony Joshua, that fight didn't get made with all that DAZN hoopla. Demetrius Andrade versus Canelo Alvarez for undisputed at 160 pounds didn't happen because of DAZN. And by the way, DAZN's not putting on, and it doesn't put on a lot of good fights. Right now, and I don't think that PBC is going to be monopolizing it. But I'll take anybody. If everybody, you had one really good organization that had all the good fighters, I think that'd be better for boxing. That's my personal opinion, but it is what it is. But DAZN is it's not an American network. If they were over there like BT, right, and they were doing their shows over there in the UK and, putting on all that stuff, I wouldn't have a problem with DAZN. But they're over here in the United States competing for fight, like Mikey Garcia fighting some nobody on DAZN instead of fighting Regis Prograis. Right? Are we getting that fight? No. That's why I'm saying it. I'm just, and if DAZN partnered with like DAZN put on the fights in the UK, but then they were aired on Showtime or aired on ESPN or aired on Fox, I think that would be good too. But it's not. But a lot of competition is not necessarily good for boxing and to get good fights because you have Canelo that was on DAZN, you have Charlo that's fighting on Fox. Well, you got Charlo that's fighting on Fox. Demetrius Andrade is on DAZN. Teofimo Lopez is on ESPN. Gervonta Davis is on Showtime. Right? Tevin Farmer was on. It's all kind of, and Devin Haney's on DAZN. I just think that all of that stuff about it being really good competition, I think it's overrated, man. And honestly, a monopoly, you get good fights for boxing fans, and I'm more interested in what the fans get than what the fighters get. There's a big movement for the PBC, and I'm a big fan of what the PBC did for boxers. And as far as making, they feature black fighters on a regular basis, I really like that. But right now, man, with this Gervonta Davis business, they kind of playing funny business a little bit, man. I want to see Gervonta Davis fight these guys, and it doesn't look like they want to do it, Tony Gutierrez said Canelo didn't have power at 154 and would get tired after 5 rounds. He couldn't KO old Mosley Cotto, but now has the power and good cardio, PEDs to the max. Very obviously PEDs too. Very, very obvious. And he put on a ton of muscle and has the endurance. He put on a bunch of muscle and increased his endurance, which isn't typical when you put on all that muscle because it burns up oxygen. PBC King said PBC should bring out Al Heyman to do the commentary for Caleb Forrest Plant. Will pump up the pay-per-view. Man, that ain't gonna do. You're crazy. That ain't gonna do nothing. But subject him to more ridicule, to a lot of ridicule if he opens his mouth. Very, very smart guy there, man. Shade Fletcher said, one last question. Who would have won if Ward and Calzaghe would have fought? Andre Ward. And I think he would have won by knockout. Andre Ward's a special fighter, man. And people can say what they want. Andre Ward he moved up in a weight class, moved up in weight in the Olympic trials and wound up winning the Olympic gold medal. He never lost a fight and he fought tough fights as a pro. I think he's the second best fighter of the century behind Floyd Mayweather Jr. Andre Ward is a great fighter, man. Absolutely great fighter. And Joe Calzaghe, I think Joe Calzaghe was a very, very good fighter, but I don't think all that tip-tap playing around would have, I think Andre Ward would have got on the inside of him and eventually wore him down, Man, pound for pound, King said you can see injection marks on Canelo's abs. Damn, man. Stallion X said, is it me or does these new boxing channels with Logan Paul on it look more like the WCW shit? Seems scripted. They got new boxing channels with Logan Paul. Man, Logan Paul can go to hell, man. All that shit can go away, man. I mean, I haven't seen that. You know what I mean? I haven't seen it, but that shit can go to hell, man. All that crap. And I'm telling you, man, they think that stuff's helping boxing. That is not helping boxing. That is a very subpar product, man. That is now taking airtime, okay? And I'm telling you, man, they're going to claim this dude is one of the best. Wait, I can't. But he's going to slip up and get decked. Fannon, you rank Ward above Roy Jones? No. No, I do not. I think they're about what and what, honestly. I think if you look at Andre Ward, I think is a better fundamental fighter. And I think like late in his career, like any Roy Jones Jr. after Roy Jones went to heavyweight is going to lose to Andre Ward. Like the guy that fought Tarver and all that, Andre Ward loses to him. And honestly, Roy loses him. And honestly, I think Andre Ward is a tough fight for Roy Jones Jr. anytime during his career. But Roy Jones is such a gifted athlete, and his reaction time and all that stuff is so fast that, it's hard for me to pick a prime Roy Jones Jr. It's hard for me to pick over him. But if you look at the fight between Roy Jones Jr. and Bernard Hopkins, the first fight, I think that kind of tells you. Now, I'll tell you a really good fight I would love to have seen, like one that had been a fight for ages, would have been Roy Jones Jr. at 168 versus Bernard Hopkins at 168. That would have been a great fight, man. And I don't know which way that goes, because Roy Jones Jr., Bernard Hopkins that's another guy who's one of the greatest fighters of this century. Great fighter that doesn't get enough credit. You know what I mean? Yeah, Roy was slept after he came back down, though. After he came back down, he got slept. So I'm giving him credit, like, because he lost all that muscle mass and he didn't have his reaction, and he was there to get hit. You know what I mean? But I'm telling you, man, a sick fight would have been is Andre Ward versus Bernard Hopkins, because Bernard Hopkins could whoop quiet as kept. Bernard Hopkins was whooping fools all the way till he got to be 50 years old, man. Whooping people till you get to be 50 years old is something. That's saying something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, James Toney versus Bernard Hopkins, that would have been nice too. James Toney, man, one of my favorite fighters. One of my favorite fighters. Yeah, Fahim, I know it's his fault, but come on, man. Come on, man. I know it is his fault, but still, it is what it is. I did say, though, I'll pick Andre Ward anytime after he gets up above. Every time the Roy Jones after he came back down, I'll give it to him. And I think it's a hard fight. I don't think Andre Ward is going to be hardcore. Is a tough matchup for anybody. I think he's a tough matchup, very, very tough matchup for anybody at any time in his career. For anybody who's going to have a tough fight with him. Andre Ward, James Toney. James Toney, because they're both good at the same thing. James Toney is going to take a shot to give a shot, and he's going to be in there and he's pressing on Andre Ward. That's another really good one, man. Another really good one. Floyd ain't beating no type of Roy Jones Jr. Floyd too small, man. Floyd too small for Roy Jones Jr., man. Come on, man. Come on, don't do that to Roy. Don't have him try to lose to lightweights. You know what I'm saying? He's a lightweight, man. Don't do that to him, man. Don't do that to Roy Jones. He's too small, man. Way, 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 way too small. Carver Williams said, I don't like him fighting, but what he's trying to do for women's rights and Amanda Serrano, I give him props, but yeah, someone is going to knock him silly soon. Yeah, honestly, man, he cut his paycheck up. I like that. You ain't getting nothing out of me for that, though. Because the whole thing is a ripoff. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't getting nothing out of me for that. That's giving out Christmas turkeys. He's giving out turkeys and trying to be part of the team. I got that. I got that. But it is what it is, man. Larry Sellers said, I like Ward at the higher weight because he couldn't hold and spoil. He had to infight bigger guys. Who was that who you talking about? Ward wasn't holding and spoiling at 168. He was clipping fools at 168. He's just does what he's just a good fighter. He can fight on the inside. He can fight on the outside. It's actually really hard to really describe how Roy Jones Jr. be beating them dudes, man. Oh, Hagler versus Carlos Monzon. Hagler. I think Monzon's overrated. Personally, I think Carlos Monzon's overrated. That's just my take. I think the guy's overrated. Bearcat Hampton said Floyd would have lost to Sergio Martinez and Erislandy Lara, in my opinion. Paul Williams would have gave him trouble. Aside from them, I don't see anybody on the radar to beat him. Those guys are all at weight classes above him. They're all weight classes above him. Paul Williams, though, I think he would have gave him trouble. But even then, I think I think Floyd would have beaten Paul Williams. Floyd versus Trinidad at 147. Floyd, if he don't get caught. Floyd, if he doesn't get caught. Because, Felix hit a Trinidad was a little bit predictable. I think Floyd could have kept him off balance. But it's a good fight, though. I would have really liked it. I would have liked it. Pound for pound, King said, how serious is Ward about coming back? Not at all. Some channels really pushing the narrative. If Canelo calls him out, he'll come back to fight. Have you got any inside information on that, man? Look, Andre Ward is on Fight Hype, flat out telling you he is not coming out of retirement. Dude, the guy is done. Floyd, I listen to pretty much every interview that there is with Andre Ward. Andre Ward has not acted for 2 seconds like he's trying to come back out and fight anybody. Andre Ward is retired, and he's been retired several years now. So, when people ask me that, I can't see it. Like, I listen to the interviews about Andre Ward. It's just, I think Andre Ward gets misquoted a lot. That's what I think. And I think the idea of Andre Ward versus Canelo Alvarez sells, but it's just not a fight that's ever going to take place, man, because he's retired, man, and he's not trying to come back. You know what I mean? You had a better chance of Floyd Mayweather Jr. Canelo Alvarez rematch than you got Andre Ward versus Canelo Alvarez. And I don't think Andre Ward's dumb either. Andre Ward's not coming out of retirement to get in there with a guy abusing steroids. You know what I mean? And if Canelo Alvarez wanted to fight him, he would have fought him. He would have tried to fight him when he was there. But, Canelo Alvarez didn't say anything about Andre Ward when Canelo Alvarez was at 160 and Andre Ward was at 175. He didn't say anything about it. Andre Ward, I just don't, I don't think that there's anything at all to that. I think Andre Ward is retired and he's going to stay retired. You know what I mean? He's got a job as a commentator and that's it. You know what I mean? He got a real big payday. I think he got a real big payday against Sergey Kovalev, and he decided that he wanted to keep his brains intact and not fight for not fight forever. He got 2 good paydays and he was out. And my hat goes off to him. But I've listened to the interviews and the things that he said, and it doesn't sound like he's coming back to me. Paul said he would have made 147 to fight Floyd. Yeah, of course he would have. Sweet Pea. Sweet Pea, Sweet Pea, Sweet Pea. That is a really, 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 really special fighter in Pernell Whitaker. I don't know what Floyd Mayweather Jr. is going to do with Pernell Whitaker. He'd have to walk forward he'd have to try to walk him down. And I don't see it happening. Because Floyd will walk you down. And Sweet Pea is a better defensive fighter than Floyd. It's just, I don't know about that one. But I would probably lean towards Pernell Whitaker in that fight. But maybe because Floyd Mayweather Jr. is aggressive, maybe Floyd Mayweather Jr. can get the call by being more aggressive. Because Floyd Mayweather does have that part to his game when he can try to walk you down. And I think that's how he'd have to beat Pernell Whitaker. You have to try to walk him down, Bob Foster by devastating knockout. Bob Foster by comatose knockout. Roy don't want no part of that, dog. Roy don't want no part of Bob Foster, man. Tommy Hearns, Canelo. I'll go Tommy Hearns over Canelo. I'll take Tommy Hearns, but he better not get caught. That's what I'll say, because Tommy Hearns got that suspect chin, so Canelo's got a chance. But no, I've not seen anything that would tell me Canelo Alvarez is beating Thomas the Hitman Hearns, and he's going to get cracked, man. Wayne Dash in the building. What's going on, man? How you feeling, man? Fifth Island says Sweet Pea got hit way more times than Floyd. What? Are you what? You ain't who? Fifth, who? Who's the fighter that was hitting Sweet Pea? I love to see it. Please let me know who that was so I can go watch the fight, because I have never seen it. Who was tagging up on Sweet Pea? Floyd Mayweather Jr. would tell you. Floyd Mayweather Jr. himself would tell you his defense ain't like Sweet Pea's. Ain't nobody touch up Sweet Pea, man. The only guy to legitimately beat Sweet Pea, I think, was Felix Trinidad, and that's it. No way. No way, dog. No way. He said, oh, that's 100% accurate, Fannon. Floyd will walk you down and literally make you miss your punches. Mayweather is not a runner. Nah, Floyd will walk you down. That when people were saying Floyd's a runner, Floyd wouldn't run around. Floyd will walk you down. Straight up walk you down. And Floyd will stand there in front of you and make you miss and counter you. All day, he'll do it all day. Now he will move you, he will move around on you if he doesn't want it, he'll move around on you. But get out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? My man Dave Wester said, Fannon, glad to see you looking bright and healthy, bro. Been with you since 2018. Keep up the good work. Thank you, man. I appreciate that, man. That means a lot. Thank you very much, man. Ray Leonard versus Purnell. I'll go with Sugar Ray Leonard at 147. It's too big. Too big. I'll fight. I mean, those are guys that moved up. You know what I mean? No, Money Mayweather will walk you down too. Mayweather walked down. He was going to knock out. He walked down. Who did he walk down? Not the bigger guys. He didn't walk down. He didn't walk down a lot of the bigger guys. But he walked people down all the way to Zab Judah. He was walking down. Zab Judah was going to get up out of there, man. Look, Floyd is a great fighter. Ain't no doubt about it. Did he walk down Cotto? I don't think he walked down Cotto. Cotto and him was a good fighter, man. You know what I mean? That's the guy who walked down. He straight up walked down Zab Judah. And that ain't no joke about that, man. You know what I mean? Pac-Man versus Lomachenko Prime. Pac-Man. I think Pac-Man's too big. Think Pac-Man's too big for him. And awkward and all that stuff. I'll give Manny Pacquiao over Lomachenko. You know what I mean? He was Pretty Boy Floyd at Zab Judah. Yeah, he was. But he'll walk people down. I mean, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Floyd will walk you down, man. If Floyd could walk, somebody did walk somebody down to 147, man. Juan Manuel Marquez. Man, he popped up. Well, Juan Manuel Marquez is a smaller dude, but you know what I mean? Yeah, they're both really active. The Earth Dealer said Tank versus Aaron the Hawk Pryor. Aaron Pryor. But the fight will never happen because of Floyd Mayweather Jr. Floyd Mayweather Jr. would duck that fight even if the fight was a fantasy fight. Floyd Mayweather Jr. would duck a fantasy fight with him, man. That's my take on it, man. Planet, years ago, Ronnie Shields said Floyd, during preparation for the Olympics, sparred Sweet Pea and couldn't lay a glove on him. No, man, Sweet Pea is a special fighter, man. Really, really special fighter. In fact, early in their career, what they would call him, they would say that Floyd was Sweet Pea that could punch because he was so good, outstanding defender, man. But Sweet Pea is something nasty, man. Really. And I've never seen, the only person I think really beat him was Tito Trinidad, really in the later part of his career, man. Pound for Pound said, you believe that T.O. is about to send a contract to Haney, or is this some more fake smoke? Fake smoke. Fake smoke. Big smoke. Big smoke. I don't believe him at all. I don't see how that gets matched up. But no, I think that's big smoke. Big smoke. Wayne Dash said, okay, Supreme hater, stop being, yeah. You guys are going into each other, man. You guys, some people be battling, man. Pound for Pound King, I think that's straight smoke. I'm telling you, man, I think Teofimo Lopez is about to go the way of Adrian Bronner. He's about to become the new Adrian Bronner, is what I see. A lot of talk, not a lot of fighting. He's not going to be able to stay down at that lightweight. He's not going to be able, if he don't hurry up and fight somebody down there, he's not going to be able to make the weight. And I can easily see with his build, him ballooning right up to 147 and having to drain to make those weight classes. I think probably he's going to have to really drain himself down to make 135 for this fight against Kambosos. I just think that I can see him really becoming an Adrian Bronner and eating himself out of that weight class because he's so big, man. And he's not that tall, and he's powerful. He's a skilled fighter, and he's very, very powerful. But, he's not a better boxer than Devin Haney. He's not a better boxer than he's definitely not a better boxer than Gervonta Davis. He's not a better fight. I don't think he's a better boxer than Lomachenko. And if you saw, like, in that fight how easy it was for Lomachenko to hit him, I mean, Lomachenko was hitting him like, now I wouldn't say at will. In the second half of the fight, he was hitting him at will. Like, he was hitting him at will, and it was his chin that held him up. If he has to drain down to 135, if he keeps, I think he's just going to be out of there, Teofimo, Chris Colbert. I mean, right now I'll take Teofimo Lopez because Chris Colbert is not at 135, and Teofimo Lopez can hit, so there's a chance that he may get touched. You know what I mean? Sean Porter versus Josh Taylor. Sean Porter. That's a bad fight for Josh Taylor because Josh Taylor ain't really got the power to keep him off of him. That's where I see it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I agree, man. He said Teo got lucky. Loma didn't fight him. Now he's trying to stay a champ as long as possible and capping and fighting easy opponents. Well, he ain't fighting nobody yet. He hasn't had any fights since he fought Vasily Lomachenko. None. I think he's probably going to wipe. I mean, Kambosos ain't a world beater, so he'll beat Kambosos. But you know what it is. Floyd versus Manny in their primes happened. It's going to happen at any point. The same thing happens any point in time in their career. Floyd Mayweather Jr. beats Manny Pacquiao. They were in their prime when they fought. Manny Pacquiao was in his prime when he fought Floyd Mayweather Jr., and Floyd Mayweather Jr. was coming down off his prime when he beat him. That's it. All those excuses about Manny Pacquiao being old when he fought Floyd Mayweather Jr. and all that nonsense is absolute garbage. Floyd Mayweather Jr. will beat Manny Pacquiao at any point in time in his career because Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a better fighter than Manny Pacquiao, and he's a better fighter, point blank, period. Ain't no point in time is Manny Pacquiao beating Floyd Mayweather Jr. And I think honestly, man, it's ridiculous that people say that there's no chance, man. Or I guess there's a chance, like a flash knockout or something like that. But Floyd's just too good a fighter, man. Way too good a fighter for Manny Pacquiao. Way too good a fighter. The fight, he was a walk in the park for Manny Pacquiao. I mean, Floyd beat him without exerting himself. Seriously. He's just that much better than Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao lost to, I don't know how many people Manny Pacquiao got to lose to for people to get it. You know what I'm saying? Floyd ain't losing to nobody that beat Manny Pacquiao. Okay? Not near one of them. If you see anybody on that list of people that beat Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather Jr. is beating in a walk. Danny Stacks said, imagine Floyd versus 140, Floyd versus Manny 140. It's the same thing. Much love in the super chat. The fight, I'm telling you, I don't care what weight that's the same fight. Because as long as Floyd Mayweather Jr. knows what Manny Pacquiao fights like, that's what he's going to do to Manny Pacquiao. He's going to time Manny Pacquiao on the way in. Every time Manny Pacquiao starts jumping around, trying to jump in there on him. Manny Pacquiao, much love, and thank you for everybody that supports in the super chat, man. Every single solitary time Manny Pacquiao jumps in there, he's going to get caught coming on the way in, and that's it. He's not gonna get cute. He's not gonna change angles on Floyd and start punching him from the other side of his head. None of that stuff is gonna work. He's not gonna beat him by an accumulation of punches. He's just not gonna do it, man. He's just not as good a fighter. Seriously, not as Sergey Kovalev ain't never gonna beat Andre Ward. He's not as good a fighter. These guys are better fighters. Canelo Alvarez ain't never going to beat Floyd Mayweather Jr. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a better fighter than he is. And Canelo Alvarez ain't beating Andre Ward. Andre Ward's a better fighter than Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is a good fighter, man. He's a good fighter. And that's where I'm going to leave it. I do not believe he's some super over-the-top fighter that's going to beat everybody. Fifth Avenue said Ward and Calzaghe. I think I got that, man. I'm taking Ward all day. If he would fight him, you know what I mean? Danny Stacks in that super chat. Much love in that super chat. He said, Pretty Boy would wash, pack, KO, or stoppage. I don't know. I think it's still going to go to distance. I think Manny Pacquiao's a very, very solid fighter, man. He's a very, very hard fighter to fight. But Floyd Mayweather Jr. would beat him. Floyd's not always going to go for the knockout on you. He's going to beat you. I don't think he's going to get more aggressive against Manny Pacquiao, because if he gets more aggressive against Manny Pacquiao, in order to try to knock him out, that's going to leave him vulnerable. One of the reasons that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is such a good fighter is that he's got enough common sense to know that you can't go trying to knock everybody out. Some people, you got to beat them in boxing matches and go on about your business. You know what I mean? That's just what you got to do. But if you know what I'm saying? Hey, DJ Erler said, Fannon, hey, peace, Fannon. Good to see you, bro. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Good to see you as well, man. Floyd versus Willie Pep. I haven't seen enough of Willie Pep. I'm not going to disrespect Willie Pep by saying I know if Floyd's going to beat Willie Pep or not. I've not seen enough of Willie Pep. You know what I mean? Willie Pep was a great fighter. He's very good defensively, but I've not seen enough of him to say whether he's going to beat Floyd. But I have a suspicion I'd probably take Floyd, you know, because I've seen Floyd. That's it. You know what I mean? It's hard to compare somebody like Willie Pep to Floyd. For me, just kind of like it's hard to compare like Andre Ward and Stanley Ketchel, or Harry Grebs, Harry Greb and Bernard Hopkins. It's just two completely different generations. But I will tell you, I think that them dudes could fight back then. You know what I mean? And that ain't no walk in the park. You know what I'm saying? They ain't no walk in the park against some old school fighters. They'll be there to fight, and they'll be there to fight next week too. You know? And when you compare them, I think you got to see, I don't know, if they fight 15 times, maybe Harry Greb can get, he can get him once or twice. That's how boxing should be. You know what I mean? Like, these guys should be fighting each other like 3-4 times and say, okay, 3 more. Oh, he got him in one of them. But now you just like, hey, the first guy to win, it's over, never fight again. You know what I mean? Prime Mike Tyson versus Prime Wilder. I'll take Prime Mike Tyson. I'll take a Prime Mike Tyson. But Mike, any other Mike Tyson, I'm taking Deontay Wilder. Any other Mike Tyson, I'm taking Deontay Wilder. But Mike Tyson's got a chin. He's got a nice chin. But I like Mike Tyson. Floyd is the best defensive fighter in my opinion. Sweet Pea's better. Sweet Pea's defense is better than Floyd's. Pernell Whitaker's defense is better than Floyd Mayweather's. In my IMO. You know what I mean? IMO. It is better, man. Larry Sellers said, I've watched a lot of boxings from the 90s onwards. Anyone that doesn't have Floyd in the pound for pound conversation is biased. Man, of course. Of course. What's BS, Fahim? What's BS, man? What's your take on Ezra Charles? I think he's often overlooked, but it was a piece in his prime. I know he could fight in a lot of weight classes. He took a lot of L's, but he could fight all the way from, I think he fought middleweight to heavyweight or something like that. Like I said, with those old school fighters, I have to see more tape on them, but very, very respectable fighter. And, his name resonates to this day. So obviously, man, the dude was a great fighter. You know what I mean? But what's Fahim Zatora calling BS on, man? What are you calling BS on, man? I'd be very interested to know. Pernell having better defense than Floyd. Why? Why is that BS? I ain't never seen Floyd get buckled. I've never seen Pernell get buckled. Ever. Never seen him buckled. I've seen Floyd buckled. Okay? I've seen Floyd get buckled. I've seen Floyd against Jose Luis Castillo now. Seriously. I've seen it. Stop shaking, you good? Nah, man, it's cold in my house. I got to keep myself warm, man. This AC is pumping. How you figure? I've never seen Pernell Whitaker get buckled like Floyd got buckled against Shane Mosley. And I ain't never seen him in a fight like I saw with him against Jose Luis Castillo. You know what I mean? Did you see Pernell talking before he was dead? I'm just saying. You see Floyd's lips? You see Floyd talking? You see Floyd talking and his lips not moving? I'm just saying. Floyd Mayweather Jr. got like partial paralysis on side of his mouth, man. Don't act like Floyd ain't never got hit. And I don't know, man, it's a lot of fights. I heard him talking. I've also saw him fighting. And I'm telling you, I've never seen him have anybody put the business on Pernell like Jose Luis Castillo put the business on Floyd. If you can give me one, let me know. Please let me know. Please let me know. I haven't seen it. Roger knocked down. Yeah. I'll rewatch that. I don't see it though. For me, I'll take Pernell Whitaker's defense. Floyd Mayweather Jr. I think may be the better fighter because Floyd Mayweather Jr. can take it to you. You know what I mean? He'll take it to you. But I ain't never seen anybody handle up on Floyd like I saw Jose Luis Castillo. On Pernell like I seen Jose Luis Castillo. You know what I mean? Just haven't seen it, man. Ron Miller, did you know that Ezra Charles beat Prime Archie Moore 3 times at light heavyweight? No, I did not. But it don't surprise me. Those guys all fought each other a ton of times. If he beat the mongoose. Look, man, Pernell Whitaker ended up punch drunk. Floyd Mayweather had all of his faculties. Easy call. No, that's not. You don't know. That's a physiological thing. That's a physiological thing, man. It's a physiological thing, man. You don't know what damage Floyd Mayweather Jr. has to his brain. You don't know what's going on with Floyd. You don't know what kind of damage Floyd has. I do listen to Floyd speak now and Floyd speak when he's younger. It's not the same. You kidding me? Floyd Mayweather Jr. doesn't sound the same right now as he did when Floyd Mayweather Jr. went in 2002. You're tripping. He ain't taking slurred speech. He ain't had as many fights. And he coasted. And he coasted the second half of his career. He wasn't fighting nobody. Nah, I'm just kidding about that. But if that's all you base it off of, okay. You know what that means? Lennox Lewis have better defense than Muhammad Ali? Question. Who had better defense? Lennox Lewis or Muhammad Ali? Telling you that argument is going to flop. That's how it affected him. That's how it affected him. Floyd didn't walk out of boxing undamaged, unscathed. Thank you. Ali clearly had better, but Ali was shaken, couldn't speak, and Lennox Lewis doesn't. Lennox Lewis has better defense than Ali. See, that's what I'm saying. That's ridiculous. No way in the world he does. It's just it affected his body. Yeah, but you know. Pernell's defense was based on reflexes and athleticism, while Floyd's was based on reflexes. And now Pernell Whitaker's not technically skilled. No, man. No. You never saw a period of time where he was getting teed off on, man. All the way to his last fight. You never saw that, man. Give Pernell Whitaker his credit, Fahim. You never saw it, dude. Pernell Whitaker was damn near completely defense, man. Absolutely great. What does that mean, man? How so? In defensively, we talk about defense. But okay, it is what it is. Pernell Whitaker looked pretty damn skilled to me, dog. I mean, I'm just saying. You know, he looked pretty skilled. He looked like a pretty skilled fighter to the kid. Okay? Floyd had a lot of trouble in his first fight against Maidana. If Maidana was more disciplined as a fighter and was fit, I don't know, man. I mean, it is what it is. I thought Floyd handled that fight. They're both, don't get me wrong, they're both excellent defense. They're both excellent fighters, man. You know what I mean? They're both excellent fighters. Larry Sell said, boxing fans questioning Pernell Whitaker's defense is funny, must be trolling. Now, well, look, they're comparing it to Floyd Mayweather Jr., who has excellent defense. I don't think Fahim is saying that Pernell doesn't have defense. He's just saying he doesn't think it's as good as Floyd Mayweather's, and I beg to differ. I think Floyd will go get you. where Pernell Whitaker really wasn't out there going to get you, you know? Yeah, he said before Pernell Whitaker retired, he was already punched strong, easy call. You're looking at how he speaks, man. Come on, man. That is how his body reacted. There's a whole lot of people that take punishment that don't get slurred of speech as much as somebody else may get it. That's how his body reacted to the trauma, and everybody gets hit, man. Floyd Mayweather got hit in his career. There ain't a fight that Floyd Mayweather Jr. got in that he didn't get hit. You know what I mean? Don't act like Floyd walked through his whole career and never got hit. Pernell got hit. Pernell, no, he quit. He quit. He quit. He didn't get TKO. He got quit in that fight. And he was high on cocaine. He was washed in that last fight. But he didn't have $500 million to set his head on. That's not true. Fahim knows boxing. What's going on, Rob Robles? No, he knows boxing. No, Fahim knows his boxing. We just disagree about this. It's not a situation where Fahim doesn't know boxing. Fahim knows his boxing. It's just, he just happens to like Floyd Mayweather Jr. a lot. I don't think that either. I just think he was a heavier puncher. The advantage Floyd has over Pernell Whitaker is he's better offense. Floyd Mayweather Jr. will beat you up. Floyd is not some guy that is a purely defensive fighter. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a more well-rounded. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a more well-rounded fighter than Pernell Whitaker. That's what I say. He has offense and he has defense. Similarly, Andre Ward is a more well-rounded fighter than Pernell Whitaker. He has offense, he has defense. My man Bernard Hopkins is a more well-rounded fighter than Pernell Whitaker. He had offense and he had defense. Pernell Whitaker's specialty was defense. You're not laying gloves on that dude. And anybody talking about he's slurred because his speech slurred means he didn't have great defense. Man, come on, man. Go watch his fights. Oscar De La Hoya hit him, but he didn't hit him that much. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think Floyd's a better fighter, Said Floyd is more well-rounded. Agreed 100%. Yeah, that's the thing. The thing is that he's a more well-rounded fighter, man. Said, who did he fight in his last fight? I can't remember who he fought. Some no-name guy that he took for a paycheck. I remember the whole thing. He fought Tito Trinidad. He was washed up with Tito Trinidad. Like his reflexes slowed against Tito Trinidad, and Tito legitimately beat him. It went the distance, but Tito Trinidad literally really did beat him. But then after that, he fought some other guy, and it is what it is. The other guy won the fight, but I just think he was washed at that point in time. You know what I mean? Fannon Floyd just smart as hell. Fannon, yeah, he's all kind of good, man. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is all kind of good in the boxing ring. He can do everything, and he's got a great pedigree. He had a great trainer. He said he gave Trinidad a tough fight, and he hurt Tito in the 7th. Yeah, but at that point in time, he's way above. Like, he's really a lightweight. Pernell Whitaker's a little itty bitty dude fighting up at 147 pounds. He's a lot smaller than Floyd Mayweather Jr. was. Hey, y'all, hold on 1 second, man. Have a patience for just 1 second with me. All right, sorry about that, man. Yeah, sorry. I had to cut out real quick. I had to use the restroom, man. I had 3 cups of coffee on me, man, and I'm going a little longer than I usually did. He agrees with Fire. I think Floyd is clearly the best fighter of his era. I don't know how these folks can argue Manny, but to each their own, I guess. Yeah, that's about the only way you can chalk that up, man. Only way you can chalk that up to that is what you're saying. Somebody just liking Manny Pacquiao, man. There's no way that you can, or people don't really know boxing. Because Floyd, I mean, dude, he's just not as good a fighter, man. He's not, that's how I see it. Y'all watch, yeah, actually, man, I'm about to get up off of here, man. Let people go watch their football in a second, man. So McGregor took a paycheck for a dive. Hey, man, that's the beginning of a lot of nonsense, man. A beginning of a lot of nonsense with that is that dang on fight with Conor McGregor. I really wish that fight hadn't happened, man. Because now it's like everybody wants to make that fight. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to make that fight. Yeah, but y'all watching box, that's me. Hey, I'm not watching it today, man. I'm just up here talking boxing. Beam Sator said, fuck football. Yeah, man, I'm a boxing fan, man. I don't do a lot of football, you know. But look, man, I'm going to get up out of here, man. Much love to everybody in the chat. Everybody in the super chat. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. And with that, I'm out. Peace.